a fantastic man. He really is.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dan French. It's the French Workbench podcast here on a Tuesday. Hopefully everybody out there has had a great day today. Thank you guys. If you're already tuning in, if you guys like the information, if you really like the content, please hit that like button. Also, subscribe to this channel. We're trying to bring the content. You guys are the ones really making this channel work. This is the behind the scenes information. This is the most real and behind the scenes information regarding financing, real estate, money talk, entrepreneurs here in Las Vegas through on-job experience. And we're streaming live from Las Vegas.
There ain't no school for our knowledge.
That's right.
Brett, you went to school for a long period of time. By the way, we have Brett Jenny here today. Brett, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. Just getting through my week.
How much education does it take to be a realtor, man? I mean, you got to go through some extensive education. Is that what's going on?
Almost like a PhD at Oxford.
Is that like
No.
right?
No, it's, I mean, I'm not sure how it is now with COVID, if it's just strictly online, but you could take most of it online, and then you had, well, when I passed it, so I passed it in Wisconsin, and then I came out here and passed it again because I had to practice, obviously.
How many times did you have to take that test, buddy?
Well, you
Be
have to.
honest. 5 times.
Yeah, I mean, oh no, I passed it the first time every time. But
Oh, wow.
then you have to get recertified every couple of years. So then there's.
But I mean, so there's a lot of people out there, and I'm not trying to discredit people. They go
Yeah.
out there and try to get that real estate license, and man,
Well, look at it this way, man.
they might
It's-
be 3 or 4 deep, and they still don't got it.
So that's kind of the thing about real estate is it's not that hard to get your license if you want to. It's like 2 or 3 weeks, and then you have to go take a practice test in front of a witness, which was like the library at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
thought you
then-
said the hospital. I was like,
Yeah. For the doctors. And then you have to take the final test at the testing center. And that's about it. Once you do that, I mean, you can start. Here's the thing about it is they don't teach you about contracts, and they don't teach you about what happens in a real estate transaction.
How long you been in real estate, Brett?
16 years.
And you never looked back, right?
Well, so here's the thing. It's one of these things where a lot of people can get a license in because it's not that hard to get the qualifications for it, but like 80% don't make it past their first year. And then out of that, 90% out of that, 80% don't make it past, or I said that remaining 20% don't make it past 5 years. So
It's a grind.
it's
It
a
is a
grind.
grind, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what it's about is how do you run a business? Can you set up a business and run a business more than it is?
How about how you run a business?
I've been around for 16 years, and there's people way more successful than me and way less successful than me.
All right.
So,
Well, right to his left, we have Esmeralda Lucia, who's back. And Esmeralda, what's going on with you? You know, you got a new house. You didn't use me for financing. You know, I mean,
or me for a realtor.
Like, what's
so
going on?
anyways,
I mean, it's
thanks
like
for coming on our show. I mean,
that's 2 strikes. You got 1 more, and
man,
guess
you have
what?
a report and it's not from me. Let's just not start. Yeah. Oh,
1 more
didn't
strike,
mess it.
Esmeralda. She's cruising.
I'm cruising.
What have you been
I don't
up
have
to?
a house yet, actually.
when do you
I'm
close?
working on it. I'm hoping by the end of the month.
Cool.
So
Sweet, congrats.
Anything new in your world? I know it's been since like Saturday I saw you, so I'm sure 2 days you had a lot to pack in.
I'm training and coaching agents, so if you want to step up your game, you know how to get a hold of me.
Go
Step-
see, yeah, get a hold of her. She
And-
was telling me about a whole system she has in place that she's teaching agents as far as being able to forecast what listings or probable sellers are going to be coming on the market, and she's the creator of it.
She's the
so
creator, huh?
Go see her.
Esmeralda, it's a pleasure to have you back. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming
Love
on.
being here.
We have our guest of honor. His name is Brandon.
Hello.
E-Credit Advisors. What's going on today, Brandon?
Hey man, just kicking it.
Dude, what have you been up to? Like, how did you get into this field, man? I mean,
You know what? So our business was started actually by my cousin almost 20 years ago. We've been doing this for a long time.
So you were doing it before, like it's more of a prominent thing now.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys were doing it before most people were doing it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, we're niched right within the mortgage industry, right? And we're changing lives every day. People trying to buy homes and just don't have the credit to get there. We'll help them out and make that happen for
so
them.
you're here to give us those tips and those things that maybe people don't see.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we brought you on. I got a lot of people that don't have really a direction.
Yeah.
And they keep going through the same processes of trying to, hey, I did this on my credit. And then they come back and they say, hey, did this impact my credit? And it doesn't really impact the credit. So
Yeah.
we're going to talk extensively to you
Yeah.
about some of the things that I have questions on, and I'm sure everybody else here has questions on. We usually like to introduce everybody. We're going to talk today about housing permits. We're also going to talk about a housing market update, and we're going to talk a little bit about real estate. We're going to show from Esmeralda, WFG Title, some of the information and data that she's providing from her company. And she did a lot of work on this, right?
Yes.
A ton of work. But first, we're gonna talk to Brandon.
That's exactly how you pull it off.
We're gonna talk to Brandon. We're gonna ask Brandon a little bit about what's going on with Las Vegas, what he knows about the housing market, and also we're gonna tie this into his credit background. And so let's get right into it, Brandon. First off, how did you get started? You said you got started. Explain to everybody how you got started and how long you've been doing this.
So I've been doing this about 5 years. My cousin started the business eCredit Advisor about 20 years ago. My background's in finance, and business. I'm actually Canadian. I moved down here about 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Nice.
All right.
So joined the family business,
Hey,
right?
all right.
Yeah.
Heard
And
that a million times. Sorry.
right. And yeah, no, we so obviously with the economic collapse and everything like that happened, tons of people had terrible credit stuff going on there with the credit afterwards. And so it was just kind of a natural fit with us, and our business evolved to be able to fit that market and help people. And now we're working with builders all over the country. We work coast to
Really?
coast. Yeah. And
So you guys are national.
yeah, we're national. Yeah. So we don't
Good
just
for you
work in the
guys.
Vegas market.
Okay.
We work all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there like a general website that anyone in the country can go? I mean, so you could be in New England or Boston or,
Yeah.
Delaware. I don't know why I'm saying Delaware.
Exactly.
That's kind of random. Rhode Island, man. So let's talk about if someone wanted to call you from Rhode Island.
What the hell? Go ahead.
That's something obviously you guys can service and help out. It doesn't matter where they're at.
Yeah, 100%. Honestly, probably 95% of our business comes from referral source. So
Okay.
typically it's going to be a realtor or lender or builder that's going to
See, that's what happens when you do a good job.
Yeah.
And that's the testimony to how good a job you do, because if 95% of your business is
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So I get a lot of people that come in and they run a credit simulator. Okay, that's like the first start for credit. Everybody runs a credit report, and there's got to be a direction for people, right? Somebody's got to say, well, are these people legit? Are the people in credit services, do they really impact and merely help the situation? And there's kind of some mixed reviews about that.
Totally. And honestly, the credit industry doesn't have a good reputation because there is a lot of fly-by-night companies.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of barriers to entry. You can pretty much look up online how to start a credit
Well,
repair
that's why the
business, but-
fact that 95% of your business
Yeah.
are referrals.
Yeah.
Because it can be a shady business, just like real estate and lending can be a shady business.
For sure.
But if 95% of your business is repeat,
Yeah. And without naming names, there's some big companies that are like that too.
Yeah.
That have a reputation, right? That are good at marketing and not good at credit repair. I won't name names, but there is some big ones, right?
So what do you see, and what do you as far as a credit repair company, right? A lot of companies come out and they say, well, especially lending companies, we can give you the credit, the simulator, support you, but we're not really a credit services. We know what's probably kind of affecting it, but we're not really in tune with like the details.
Yeah.
So a lot of these companies, they don't really help in the way that they say they're going to help. Are you guys, like, as far as being legit, I mean, you guys give the right information, or do you guys, because a lot of these companies, they just milk the process.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah. So our process, and again, we're niched within the mortgage industry. The whole point of what our program and the company is set up to do is to help people get financing for a home loan. And so our program is objective based. So you being the lender would say, hey, I'm working with John and Maria Smith.
Right.
We need to get them to a 640 credit score. They're at a 580 and 575 right now. I'm running it through my simulator and nothing is happening. I can't figure out how to do this. Can you take a look at this and give me some ideas? And a lot of the time, we do offer just free advice on a file. And so I'd go back to the lender and say, hey, if the client does what's called a pay for deletion, where if they try to get a collection account removed by simply paying it and getting an agreement from that creditor, that's going to get their score up to a point where they can move
so
forward
with that
and qualify,
being said,
right?
with that advice,
Yeah.
is that just from knowledge you've learned over
Yeah.
the year, or is there like a simulator that you have too that
No,
only you have just knowledge over the years?
It's
of
a
just,
the brain
simulator on top of
computer,
a
yeah.
simulator.
well, I mean, I didn't know. I mean,
A
that's
trigger of
Listen.
a trigger.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
that's
you know what
that's
I mean?
experience for sure.
Okay, so you can hear a scenario, kind of look at the general overall credit, and you know exactly what
Yeah.
needs to go down just because you've done it so much.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, I mean, there's so much information out there about credit that you can Google it just as a regular everyday consumer, right? Google credit and think you know what you're doing. And we have there's a saying in our industry that goes, what makes common sense doesn't make credit sense. And and it's true. It holds true.
That's 100% true.
Yeah. And so, common sense says, hey, if I get a new collection account, or if I have a collection account or a bunch of them on my credit report, simply paying those is going to help my credit score. And a lot of the time that isn't what happens, and actually hurts your credit score. And of course, people are left, over afterwards being like, well, why? What happened? Right. And that's typically when they get sent over to us and we look at their file and like, oh yeah, you shouldn't have done that. And here's the reason why, right? And we'll go in depth with them.
So it's not so much a million questions of why the system's like that. It's just, the system's like that and how it's set up. And hey man, if you could change the world, you'd change the world. But given what it is, this is what you need to do.
Yeah. Same thing. Why is there over 50 different FICO scores, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of that?
There is?
Oh, yeah.
there you go, man.
Yeah.
What's the highest credit score rating you've ever seen?
So by nature of what we do, we don't typically see high credit. It's true.
That's true.
But what's the highest
someone's
score?
got 850.
I'm gonna tell you, I haven't seen anything above a 850. Have you ever seen anything above that?
So with the mortgage scores, and I'll talk specifically to those because that's the industry we're in, they only go up to 850, and so you're not going to see above an 850 for a mortgage lending score. I think the auto loan scores, I think those go up to 900 or 950. We don't do a lot of business in the auto loan space because it's just not the same sort of engagement from the customer to be able to purchase a vehicle as it would be, a life purchase like a home, right? So it's a different thing. Now I've seen scores as low as in the 300s.
They really have a 300.
And it takes effort to get there. So, it's kind of impressive when that happens.
What's probably the most common thing that is what you would consider maybe a quick fix without being a quick fix that someone that like you repeatedly see come in? You're like, listen, this is a common thing. What would that be?
Well, so there's a bunch. I could tell you probably the most common, and this is for sure, most common types of collections that people have are medical collections, right?
Okay.
I knew it.
And we leverage.
I had one for $40.
I knew it.
No
Only
kidding?
somebody, and she's shaking her head because she knew she got caught. Go ahead.
No, so
I don't even know why I had it. I'm serious. I'm so irritated.
that happens to a lot of people, though. And then all of a sudden,
that equals like an aspirin.
What is this?
At a hospital.
You know what's crazy? So that does impact your score quite a bit too. Like if you've got a really good credit score, it actually has a huge impact, right? What is the point deduction for that?
So it's going to be relative to the file, right? Because it's going to be weighed against everything else that's on the credit report. So if you have a bunch of really like a lot of open credit, revolving accounts, mortgage, auto loan, you've paid those down, and then you get a brand new collection account, that's not going to impact you as much as somebody, let's say, that has one open installment loan, their auto loan, then all of a sudden they get a collection, it's going to drop their credit score, right?
Gotcha.
And the better your credit score is, that one new negative account is going to affect you way more than somebody who's already got pretty bad credit. They get one more negative account. What's the difference,
Right.
That's just terrible, though. Like, you're not even.
They're already drunk. Just give them another goddamn beer.
Right, but it's those people that we can help the most too, because there's so much that we can go after then, right? And there's a lot of structure to that we can go, and you have to be strategic about that approach, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so you look at the situation now, you said deleted. Can you really delete an account? As far as I've seen, people were like, oh, we're going to delete. In the past, we used to have a lot of short sales. Delete that, right? That's going to be deleted. Or can you delete like a foreclosure, stuff like that, if you pay enough money? Can that actually happen?
Yeah. So that's a loaded question, and it's going to depend on what type of account it is. And number one,
I won't say.
Literally against the law for any credit repair company to guarantee you could delete an account. So what happens is when we look at accounts, and I'll use public student loans, for example, because that's typically something a lot of people see. There's no credit repair company that can go after and challenge successfully a public student loan and try to win against Department of Education and Navient unless they have specified, documented, written stuff from that creditor that says, hey, this is incorrect. Here you go. We can leverage that with the credit bureaus. But if they don't have that, those accounts are not going to get corrected, right? Things like a bankruptcy, you asked me that earlier, right? Chapter 7, Chapter 10, those are going to stay on your credit report. Now, we won't even challenge them. We'll look at those and say, hey, no, there's no way we're going to go after them. Now, I've heard of other companies that will go try to challenge it. It gets removed, and then it comes right back on the credit report again. That's going to happen.
Oh, really? So it gets removed and they get paid, and then it comes right back on.
I've had that happen.
That is
It
not right.
It got removed, so I can get the loan, then pop back on, but I already had the loan.
So how do they figure that part of it out? Where if how do they manipulate the credit report where it's deleted for a period
that
of time,
system works.
and then all of a sudden it comes back to something?
Yeah, they get lucky. Something like that. Like again, we won't even touch something like because the odds are stacked against you. That's a rare case, right? So us challenging that most of the time, that's just not going to happen. Period. Right. And so when we're looking at a file, the way that we're going to analyze that, and this is something that most people don't know. This is not common knowledge. The most important thing on your credit report is what's called a date of last activity. It's called a DLA.
Okay.
And all that translates to in plain English is the more recent something is on the credit report, the more relevant it is to your credit score. So if you have, and this is where people get mixed up all the time, right? Again, common sense. I have these collection accounts. I know they're legitimately my accounts. I'm going to start paying on them and they're going to help my credit score. So if you have a client, let's say, that takes their medical collection that's 5 years old, and let's say it's $500. They go and they pay that account without a deletion agreement. What's going to happen is that account will update on their credit report and it'll show that it's a paid or settled collection account, $0 balance, but instead of it being 5 years old, it's brand new again. And it drops their credit score with a $0 balance. And that happens all the time.
Oh, wow.
And so, the worst case scenario is somebody comes to us right after they've done something like that, where, in their mind, they think, hey, like I've done something really, really good here. I've paid all my collection accounts. It's going to be a breeze now. That's completely the opposite.
So your advice is just let you guys handle that.
Yeah. Some accounts it's going to make sense to settle.
And you know which ones it makes sense with and which ones to apply it to. Yeah.
So if you're an average person out there
Makes
looking
sense.
to get some type of credit services, how can you go from the difference of, or knowing the difference between what you just said and saying, okay, this needs to be done and this doesn't need to be done? Because what are some of the questions and steps that somebody could take if they're looking or seeking information like you, but they find a company that, let's be honest. I mean,
Google it.
Some of these companies, though, all they do is.
Is it a monthly service or is it like a yearly
So
subscription?
we quote probably different than most companies out there. A lot of companies, and again, I won't name names, but a lot of companies will put you in a program with the intent of keeping you in the program as long as possible.
Correct.
And they'll charge you a low monthly fee. Let's call it $99 or $79.
Yep.
And the way that they approach a credit file is they'll see all these different accounts that you might have on your credit report, but they take a shotgun approach to it. They're not doing it from the perspective of, hey, you're actually trying to do something with your scores. I just see you've got some stuff on your credit report. So we'll put you in a program and we'll challenge things kind of one month or one item at a time. We'll see how that goes. Then we'll do another item and they stretch it out sometimes 2 years, right?
Yeah.
I think is the longest I've heard for something like that. We'll talk about debt consolidation in a sec too, because that's different. I think it's important to talk about. But so the way that we structure our program, when we analyze a file, we offer free consultations, firstly. And the reason why we do that is as much value as somebody's going to get out of that consultation, because we're talking specifically about their file, it's also for us to see if this person's a fit for our program, what can we do to help them. But our client that, that's the end user, the end client, the client of ours is also the loan officer or the realtor that's referred that person over to us, because we know that you're trying to fund a loan, you're trying to get them into a home, you want to have a successful outcome here. And so if I look at a file, and this is where our accountability comes into, and let's say there's, an account on the credit report that's stopping that client from being able to fund, and I see that and I say, hey, look, your odds of success here are going to be much better by you paying that account, getting a deletion agreement, having your loan officer do what's called a rapid rescore, which basically just speeds up the process of that updating on the credit report. That's going to be a much quicker result than us challenging that account. And your odds are 50-50 on it, just depending on what the account is. And you're going to pay us money to do that. It doesn't make sense, right? And so we offer those free initial upfront consultations because we need to see what's on the file. Now, if it's more in depth, there's a bunch of accounts, or it's not financially feasible for them to be able to apply those funds to whatever accounts they need to, then they'll go into a program and we'll do what we need to do on our side.
Yeah.
And so based on that, we quote a flat program cost and break it out over the length
So
of
it's
the
a
program.
flat fee. That's a good that's a question that people want to know. Like, hey, is this a flat fee or is this like a per cases type, or like per trade line type situation, right?
Flat fee, program cost, but we break it out over the length of the program. We cap it at 6 months. We don't charge beyond 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you look at a lot of these people, and you said 300 credit score, right? And
that's not common. That doesn't happen very often.
Okay,
but
let's say 400 or 500. Let's be realistic. I think
Let's
a lot of people
let's say
have
510 is your credit score.
That's probably probably accurate,
let's give a proper expectation here though for these people, because I think that a lot of people are like, well, I'm just going to throw some money at it and it's going to just take care of everything. Now, the odds of getting things deleted in this world today, there's the CFPB that you have to that they follow, that will allow certain things to be deleted, but it's got to be legit, right? So you can't just go in and say, hey, I'm going to give you some money. Let's get the deletion letter ready and let's make it happen, right?
Yeah, there's going to be some collection companies that are more willing to delete than others, and there's a laundry list of ones that.
So
will
let me
and
ask
will
you
not,
this:
right?
why would they not be willing to do that?
They just won't, because they know that they hold the power there, and they're just not going to do it. And there are some companies that just don't play ball. There's certain creditors out there that we won't challenge because we know from experience there's no way those accounts are getting updated or corrected or deleted.
They don't play ball.
Can you tell us what type of business or like what creditors won't?
So Capital One is one.
They were like that with short sales.
Yeah, and First Premier is another one.
Yep.
Yeah, those are probably the two biggest
I
ones.
bet you I can tell you a lot of the same ones because they were assholes with short sales.
Yeah, yeah.
By the way, don't ever get a mortgage with a credit union.
What about a medical bill? Like if you got a
don't have
medical
anyone to
bill,
back
like
'em up for
how
a mortgage.
easy it for a medical bill to get deleted?
So luckily, those are actually some of the easiest types of accounts to get deleted.
Really?
So, yeah, and it's because of HIPAA, right? And so we're able to leverage that to go after them. And it's kind of from the perspective where, HIPAA basically, if you go and you apply for a job,
what's
right?
HIPAA? Can you explain what that is to them?
Right. So it's privacy law is what it is.
Okay.
And so the way it works and the way that we leverage that law, if let's say you're going to apply for a job interview and that job has to pull your credit for whatever reason for the background, and they make a decision not to hire you based on your medical history, that's discrimination. They can't do that. And so we're able to leverage
What
that
about
law.
firing you for not getting the jab?
I digress.
Isn't that along the? Isn't that fall in the same category?
Yeah, I don't know. That's beyond me.
Just saying. Something
Right.
to think about, kids.
So there's certain regulations and things that you
I just
can
went there.
utilize at your fingertips to kind of get that stuff going. But let's set that proper expectation. If you're a 500 credit score, a 510, doesn't really matter. We can say whatever the score is.
Yeah.
What is the time frame usually for clients that are that low? Is it a year and a half? I mean, obviously it depends on what's on there, but usually you get to that point. I'm not going to say this, but you've kind of fallen down the road here a little bit on some things, right? You're not paying your bills or something's happened where there's some significant things that's going on. Maybe not like a foreclosure.
Yeah.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be a foreclosure to have a credit score like that, right? But you just telling me, hey, your credit score is at a 510. Immediately, I know that there's stuff that's recent on the credit report that's impacting that client heavily. Now, the question comes into what is it that is doing that? Is it a collection account or a number of collection accounts? Or do you have an auto loan that you just stopped paying on the last couple months that's going to be charged off, right? That's something that you're going to have to deal with directly, right? And you're going to have to go to the creditor. Now, we can coach a client on that, but they're going to have to address something like that up front. So, I mean, and late payments are a common thing that people get. A lot of the time, if it's just a one-off situation, so you asked earlier about, hey, if somebody has a high credit score, then all of a sudden they get a new late payment and the credit score drops. A lot of the time, you can call the creditor and ask them for forgiveness on something like that, right? If it's a one-off situation. So that's a lot of the time going to be the advice that we give somebody in that particular scenario. Again, First Premier, Capital One, they're not going to play ball, though. So,
Yeah.
So there's certain companies that will play ball. Now, if somebody has a 510, would you say it's a year and a half usually for something to get? Because like what I mean by that is my scores that I look at for people to really get started, 620 or higher. Sure. I mean, that's a conventional starting point, right? So is that like that would probably take about a year to get increased by 100 points? Would you agree or no?
I don't think so. So
No?
we average through our process, our program, we average a 20-point increase per month throughout this process. But that's averaged through the length of the program. And it's a combination of two things. It's a combination of addressing the negative accounts. If there are accounts that the client needs to settle, is there a willingness on their side for them to do that? If they're behind on some of their bills right now, are they going to get current, right? So, I mean, these are the questions that we have to ask. But then we also
give it
look
a
at the
fair and
positive
able
stuff.
chance.
Yeah.
Do you write them? Do you have
I would
a
say
system?
probably 8 months, something like that, to get that up
That's
there.
amazing, man.
I have a question. For your system, do you guys provide like the written letters to send out to the creditors or to challenge?
Yeah, so we don't give those to clients. That's our secret sauce.
Okay, so you do them
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
so,
just curious.
So we have clients sign a limited power of attorney, and we act as them disputing the accounts on the credit report. But the way that we're doing it is we're leveraging different consumer protection laws specific to what we're challenging, and we're holding the bureaus accountable. And we're saying, hey, you need to justify how you're reporting this. And if you're not justifying, you can't provide documentation, the account has to get deleted, right? Or updated at the very least if it's not reporting accurately.
They follow that 30-day rule, right? Where if you don't respond in 30 days, is that something that's still going around? Like if you want to get something removed or deleted, you'd be like, hey, we're going to write this letter. Yeah. Everybody thinks like, okay, I'm just going to throw a bunch of letters out there, and that's what they do. Yeah. Is that really what you guys do? Or
That's Lexington law.
Yeah. So,
You guys know exactly what I'm saying with that, man. That's their MO, dude.
And then it just seems like nothing really happens.
3
Like,
years
so-
later, still sending letters.
so what's interesting about that is that since COVID hit, what's supposed to happen is when the dispute process goes out, gets sent to the bureaus are supposed to respond and send the client a letter of the status of what that investigation is. Since COVID hit, they haven't been sending those letters as much, but they're still conducting the investigations. And so the only way that we have oversights on file is when we have clients repull credit, and we can get them to do a consumer report if they're trying to avoid hard pulls on their credit, right? But that's the only way we have direct oversight is when we actually have a new credit report. And then we would do a cross comparison, say, hey, this is what's changed on your file from the old one versus the new one. And it's because of this, right? We've challenged these accounts, and this is what the result is.
Well, just you guys have the experience.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the thing is exactly what to do with every file.
Yeah.
Based on any given scenario.
And every day, and I'm not joking when I say this, every day I'll have lenders, say, hey, Brandon, take a look at this credit report. Let me know what you think, because I ran a what-if simulator. It's not giving me any sort of avenue here.
Right.
And I don't know if you've experienced this, but those what-if simulators not 100% accurate a lot of the time, right? Sometimes they tell you weird things, or it just doesn't give you a path. Whereas I can look at it and say, hey, the client has this, and this they could do beyond just, hey, pay down your credit card, right? And you're going to be able to fund a loan, right? And so that's where I think our value comes in huge for you guys.
I mean, dude, I've been doing the 16. I've worked with a lot of lenders and a lot of credit repair people. I can tell you, you know exactly what you're talking about. Without a doubt, you do.
So there's different algorithms. Everybody always, this is a topic that I get with questions, and they're always like, well, Credit Karma shows that I'm at a 780, but it's showing a 740. Why is that? Or, I had, and then
that's like the
inquiries.
estimate.
Yeah.
Right.
On a house.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's
you
like,
those aren't accurate?
But you have, listen, when you look at the algorithms of things,
Yeah.
right? And you're saying, okay, why is there so many different algorithms out there, and how are these judged differently? Where I've seen it where some people are like, hey, I just pulled my credit, and why are you guys so much lower versus what others do? So is there a different algorithm that's taken in place?
So they're all different algorithms. They're all different formulas. The way that I explain it to people is that the mortgage space and you trying to get a home loan is probably some of the most stringent guidelines out there for extending financing. Like, you're not going to just take on risky loans without knowing what you're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
And so the way that algorithm's set up is to do it as conservatively as possible. That's why when people go onto Credit Karma, and it's fine to use Credit Karma, I'm not knocking it at all, but take it with a grain of salt. Those scores are not going to be the same as your lender scores. And you only have 2 of the 3 bureaus reporting on there. So you don't even have complete information.
Oh, did they forget to tell you that in their commercial?
Right? Right?
Oh, you found out after you signed up, though. Thanks. That's how they work,
Yeah.
But is it because they want to keep them on the site? Is that what it is? Because there's a lot of credit, probably right. That's why I'm trying to think. Like, why would they give a different, or it usually look, buying a home is conservative.
Yeah.
So you're going to get more of a conservative algorithm.
Yeah.
But to be that far off,
Yeah.
it's almost like, hey, we're trying to excite you.
Yeah.
To be on there, but it's not really what it is, right?
You know what? Honestly, it's one of those things that I look at it and it's like, it's just the way it is. And then how do you deal with it, right? And so we'll say to people, any consumer site you go to, even if you go to Experian.com and you look at your Experian score on Experian.com and your loan officer pulls that credit for you, your Experian score is going to be different because it's a different scoring model. Why? Yeah, I don't know.
So somebody comes in the office, right? And they're
That's
like, okay,
crazy, man.
Brandon.
Like, there should be more of a you would think, man.
It should be consistent, right? So you know where you're at all times.
Just for the safety and conservativeness of everyone.
Yeah.
Like, there should be one standard base model.
Consistent.
Yeah.
Well, I think
what the hell's so hard about
everybody's
that?
got different agendas, right? I mean, you think about it, they're their own company, Credit Karma. They got other algorithms out there with companies that are holding it. It's weird because
Everyone's got a different agenda where they're going in a car, but they all need to wear a damn seatbelt.
right. It's true.
I mean,
Right,
man, I'm whipping out the analogies today, aren't I?
Yeah, that was on point.
Metaphor.
Right
I'm a metaphor kind of guy.
there. All right. So, but you go back and you look at these algorithms now. Now let's talk about somebody that wants to get started. Right there, I'm a little nervous. It's not a fun part of anything really when you got to go and be in front of somebody, and it's a little bit embarrassing, maybe a little bit, and it's like, well, you got to kind of swallow that pride and just say, hey, I need to find and seek help. Yeah. When somebody comes and sees you for the first time, what does the process look like for you? Like, how do you take them through? Like, do you pull a report right then?
Yeah.
Do you guys have a consultation? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah. So typically, and I'll just kind of use the sort of average everyday scenario that comes across, we'll have a client referred to us by a lender. sometimes realtors, but mostly by lenders. And the lender would have already pulled credit for the client. Now, depending on the company, the state, some lenders are able to share those credit reports with client authorization, some aren't. So if we're able to get a credit report from the lender, then we'll use that. That's kind of the best case scenario because it goes back to the scores are going to be the accurate scores that the lender's looking at when they're going to go through the financing. And if we can't get that report, we'll have the client pull a consumer credit report. And we use a number of different sites to do that. And we'll give the instructions to do that. They'll get the credit report over to us. We'll do an evaluation of their file, break basically everything down. The loan officer is going to let us know, hey, I need a 640 or 660 or whatever on this file. And we do the consultation based on that objective. And so then we'll look at the file and say, hey, this client has, let's say 20 accounts on here that need to be challenged. Some of them are more difficult than others. There's a likelihood the client will have to settle some of these accounts at the end. We don't know which ones those are yet because we haven't challenged them. We don't know if they're going to be able to get removed. And so we'll do that, but then we'll also advise on positive trade lines too. And that's something a lot of companies, Lexington Law without saying so much, but they're not going to advise you on positive trade lines. They're credit repair, and they're going to look at, hey, you've got some negative stuff.
I can tell you firsthand. That comes from a firsthand
Yeah.
story. So that's how,
There you go, right? And so 50% of this is you need to establish credit. And the way that I'll explain it to people is if you come to me and I'm your loan officer, and I open your credit, I look at it, and you have no history on there showing me that you know how to use credit, you're not going to get a loan.
No.
Vice versa,
Right.
if you've got a few open revolving accounts, you've got low balances,
So,
you're managing them responsibly.
basically,
I'm gonna be way
even
more
if
comfortable.
even if you have bad credit, that's still a better scenario than having zero credit.
No, that's not necessary.
No, because it's going to
Okay.
be a lot quicker to be able to establish credit.
Yeah.
You come to me and you've got no credit. You just need to get some credit.
Okay, so how do you go about that? How do you
Yeah.
say, hey, someone says, hey man, I'm starting out, but I got a real job for once. I'm starting to save money. I want to buy a house.
Yeah.
And granted, they don't have anything working against them
Yep.
for bad loans or anything or credit,
Yep.
but they don't have any. So where do they start? What's your advice?
Yeah, you need to get 3 secured credit cards.
Okay.
Yeah. 3 is the magic number. The reason why is you want to be able to show that you can manage responsibly multiple accounts at the same time. So it's okay to have one open secured card. That's great. That's a good start. But you're going to be able to optimize and get your scores up faster.
So start
and
out
pop all
with
3.
start out with 3
Yeah.
secure credit cards,
Yeah.
and then is there a method of payment on those or percentage you charge? Or?
Yeah, 100%. And good question. So typically secured cards, and this is general advice, don't ever put any more than the minimum balance or the minimum deposit on the card. You don't need any more than that.
Okay.
So you could have cards that say, hey, we need a $200 deposit or a $1,500 deposit. Your choice. Just put $200 on it. What
Okay.
matters more is how you use the account.
Gotcha.
Not the limit.
Okay.
And so what you want to do, and we'll coach clients on this all the time, but you basically use all 3 cards every single month for a small purchase, like a tank of gas, $30 to $50. Then all you're going to do is you're going to pay the account down to a $5 bounce. What you're trying to do is to get that $5 bounce to report off to the bureaus.
Gotcha.
Better than a $0 bounce because it's showing that the accounts are active, making them relevant on the credit report.
So you charge $150 and then pay $145 off that.
Yeah, and you could do that. What matters is the reporting date, right?
Gotcha.
Again, not common knowledge.
So you're establishing street cred. You're
are.
saying I'm a grown up now.
That is.
Saying
It's
here.
exactly, yeah.
Gotcha.
How long does it take for somebody? I know the answer, but maybe you can go in more depth.
Yeah.
How long does it take somebody with 0 credit when they do open up a trade line,
Yeah.
credit card, revolving? How long does it take before they start establishing credit? Is there a usual? Is there a time frame, or is it everything's different?
We would typically say 3 to 4 months, somewhere in that time frame. To
Okay.
be able
That's pretty quick, man.
And that's going to be sort of the 640-ish range. If you're trying to get in your 700s, that's going to take a year, right, to build that kind of credit.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
So it's history.
Yeah, it's
right.
history.
It's time.
Even if you are doing everything per what you're saying on the credit cards for payments and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So you'll see.
Yeah,
that-
I guess that makes sense. They want a year history. I mean, that's fair.
You're trying to get those.
Oh,
high
you're a
scores.
grown up for 3 months. Here you go.
I have a question. Do you
I hope you
see?
pay it back.
Yeah, right.
I have a question. Do you see short sells? Are people still challenging those? And then how long does it take now to remove that?
You know what? We don't actually see that very much right now. I've probably in the 5 years that I've been doing this.
Rewind 10 years. How many did you see?
Yeah. Yeah, probably quite a few, right?
Dude, yeah, I guarantee it.
Yeah. I think in the 5 years that I've been doing this, I've seen like 2 or 3. Like,
Okay.
Not very many.
Yeah,
Well, we know there's a wave of foreclosures coming. We had
Right.
one happen on that.
Oh, my.
One foreclosure. One foreclosure.
That equals an eighth of a short
it's
sale.
going to be a domino effect now. So, right?
Yeah.
Do you deal with foreclosures a lot?
I mean, there would have to be specified documentation on something like that, but probably not. No, it's not going to be much you could do on that, right?
What
Yeah.
about IRS tax liens?
No.
That's a whole other animal, huh?
He said no.
Yeah. So interesting. Those actually don't report on your credit anymore. They're on the Cavers report, right?
How do they not report on the credit anymore?
Yeah, there's a change in the law a few years
So
ago.
someone goes to get a mortgage on a house. That doesn't come up?
Well, it does, not on the credit, on the Cavers.
What's the Cavers?
So that's a report that's pulled to see if you have any outstanding debt. Like a lot of times, if you have a student
Like
loan,
you get pulled over and check and see if you got any warrants.
pretty much.
Man,
It's
my
like-
analogies, bro.
it's
Am I
more-
the king of that?
Brett-
Okay, anyways, go
Brett's
back
the
to
new
it.
analogy person
That's-
here. on
that's
the
right.
show. It's like, you're just gonna- hey, I
Analogy
want you to
Brett.
do research on analogies for the
Anal-
next show.
Analogy Bitcoin Brett. You heard it here first.
Hashtag it, yeah.
Hashtag. Sorry, all right, go ahead.
Mio.
Yeah. All
No,
right.
but so you look at the situation with credit, and then you're saying, okay, student loans, all right? And people want to know, what if you're behind on student loans? We talked about, you know, if you had some type of tax lien,
Yeah.
Cavers would come up, and I'll just kind of explain what
Okay,
Cavers is. Cavers is something where it's a report that's almost a detailed report that if it doesn't show up on your credit, it will show up there. Like
So
if
you have to run the Cavers.
every time.
To
Yeah.
get a loan or just
No, to get a loan because they want to make sure that there's no other properties that you might not have interest in or that you've defaulted on or
So
things
why
that
do
the-
they run your credit then if there's a whole nother thing they go by?
because it's a starting point. So there's layers to this that people really don't
does that
understand.
hurt your
No,
credit
yeah.
or does it drop your score?
No, it doesn't
by
do
doing
anything
the
to your
report?
credit.
Unrelated to credit,
Yeah. No, it's more like it's like almost running like a background check on somebody.
Yeah.
In a lending world.
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they
That makes
used
sense.
they used to report that on credit reports. And I think in 2017 they changed it because there's so much inaccuracy on them that they eventually said, yeah, we can't.
Well,
report this
I
to
mean,
credit.
and so point being, if you have like something major like tax liens, it doesn't matter if it shows up in the credit because you're still not going to get a home loan.
correct.
Well, not necessarily.
you're gonna have
if
to.
if you pay it in full, then you're okay. You
or,
know,
or you
wow.
can do installments or something.
Or
right? Just show
installments,
us
right,
what's
and that's
paid.
what I
So
was
if you're
gonna
on
say.
an installment plan, you can.
That's a better question.
Yeah,
for
I mean, you
the
can.
loans,
You got to obviously, like, for instance, if you filed your returns and you owe money and you can't pay it,
'Cause
we're
that's-
going to qualify you with that payment. Now it's a part of your liability.
Okay, because that's a scenario I ran into a ton
Yeah.
when back in the short sale days.
Yeah.
Where obviously IRS, they're getting foreclosed or short sale, and then their taxes are all.
Yeah.
What about student loans? So
Effed up
we all
too.
know, like, student loans, they're talking about pushing this, kicking the can down the road where you don't have to make any payments maybe till 2022.
Yeah.
What if somebody has, this is
I thought they were just eliminating
derogatory.
them.
Hold on.
Want
This,
to.
what if this had a derogatory
Yeah.
on the credit report? Can you actually, I know you said you can't remove it, but can you fix it somehow?
So there's a difference, and I want to make the distinction. If it's a private student loan, those are fair game. We could challenge those all day long. We've been successful in removing those before. Public student loans are their own thing. I kind of refer to it as like a separate protected asset class. That's not the right terminology, but it's a separate thing on the credit report.
Huh.
The only way that's going to get corrected is directly through the public creditor, so Department of Education, Navient, one of those companies. And what they're going to need to see is you to be back in repayment, and they want at least 6 to 12 months of active repayments with no lapse payments, at which point you can call them and ask them for forgiveness on the prior derogatory information. It's the only way those are going to get it corrected.
Or I could just skip college and learn everything on YouTube.
Yeah.
which is what the next generation is going to do.
Yeah.
Well, I think, listen,
Khan Academy.
yeah, I mean,
I'm telling you, man.
well,
telling
listen,
you,
hey,
watch.
you know what? Everybody knows that that's like the new thing where kids are learning on computers, and it's just a matter of time where that's going to be the curriculum. You know, it already is to that point. So, but going back to the credit situation. So, what's the last situation you had with somebody that maybe had a problem, maybe with their credit, and take me through the process of what that situation was, and then how you resolved it.
So, I mean, it's weird because every situation is different, but yet every situation is the same in a weird way. But, typically it'll be, we get the credit report. I'm going to look at that in depth. And then it's always going to come down to what's the client's capacity to be able to also participate in the program. It's not a passive program. It's participant. It's 50-50, right? If you're not doing your part and staying current on your accounts and doing the things that we're asking, like established credit, right, you're not going to get to the finish line.
Yeah.
It's never a question of if with credit, it's just a question of when, right? You can have terrible credit. You can just come out of bankruptcy. And so long as you're doing the right stuff afterwards, establishing credit, then you're going to be able to get a home loan down the road, right? Now, you've got years. You've got 2 years typically, I think, to be able to do that from Chapter 7. Right?
Yeah, well, Chapter 7, it's for an FHA loan,
Right.
4 years conventional. But the thing about this is people don't understand it. When you get a bankruptcy,
Yeah.
it's basically saying, hey, you got your slap on the hand. You get a second chance. And I've seen a lot of people where they don't take advantage of that second chance. And what I mean by
What
that
do
is,
you, what do you mean by that?
Oh, so they forgive you for the? I mean, you still have to make the payments.
well, it's an analogy, just like Brett brings up. It's one of those analogies. So you get a
He just
second
doesn't
chance.
do analogies. You don't do analogies. Like, I'm a professional analogy giver, okay? And you can tell that.
But it's a second chance. So let's say you had a bankruptcy and you wiped everything clean. The hardest thing to do, or the worst thing you could do if you're trying to get any type of loan, but especially a home loan, is be late on another trade line. Like that just shows like, okay, you didn't learn your lesson.
Yeah.
So now you might have a score that's a 660, 680 that's passive. But if you got a couple of lates after that, or you got some shaky stuff going on after you might not get approved by an underwriter.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you know what, you're not thinking.
Yeah.
You're just a loser, dude. We don't give mortgages to losers.
But it's true. I mean, you gotta look at it from an underwriter standpoint.
Go to Loserville.
They're underwriting for the investor, right? So why would I give you a loan if you already had a bankruptcy and you wiped everything out, you got a second chance at things, and you just said, "Hey, screw it, I'm going to do the same
You
thing."
wouldn't. That's the answer.
You can't handle the truth. Right?
You can't get a loan, damn it.
But it's true. You have to look at these things. So my job and what he does coincide with each other. We both work together. We're both trying to accomplish the same thing, which is take this client, have good credit. If they don't have it, send them to him. They fix his credit, her or his credit, whoever it is, and then they get them to a point where they can get in a position to buy a house.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people that come to you, it's an emotional position that they're in.
Oh, yeah.
They probably feel vulnerable. Am I not right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, because it is a delicate thing. Like, it's an ego thing, right? Like, I don't want you to judge me, you know?
Yeah.
And we don't do that. We're very objective based. So there's no emotion from our side.
Say
right?
it's all
But
right,
for
dude. I'll
people,
judge you
it
no
is.
matter what. Don't worry about it being your credit.
It is. It's totally an emotional thing, for sure. Especially if there's health reasons. So somebody's got a lot of medical collections.
I bet, man.
Right?
Yeah.
Is there something for somebody, let's say they got sick, or let's say they had some things and they got a real legit reason of why this happened? Like, hey, you know what? For instance, I don't want to say this, but let's say somebody did get COVID, or somebody did have some significant thing that happened to them.
Yeah.
And they couldn't, let's say, pay some things.
Yeah, they were in the hospital.
In this
for a long
position
time.
now, we know that these things were pushed down the road, right?
Yeah.
It's like a pause for everybody last year, but it's not going to continue. What if you got it today? Or let's say you got sick for, let's say you got, I don't know, something, you know, and you have a problem.
I would call my creditor and tell them what happened, and hopefully they'll understand the situation.
Yeah.
We are in COVID, right? And so, I mean, this happened to a lot of people right now. Typically speaking, something like that, if you don't have something in writing from the creditor, there's no way we can challenge something that, let's just say you got a credit card, stop paying on it, bunch of late payments, you had COVID, right?
Right.
We can't just challenge it and say, oh, client had COVID, to take this off the credit report. The creditor is going to need to acknowledge that and do something with that and be willing to forgive it. And so typically a situation like that, I'd say, hey, call the creditor, see what they're willing to do for you.
Yeah.
Setting expectations low, but
does that help?
it does in some situations.
Most creditors are receptive to that of people calling.
They can be, and I think especially now with regards to COVID and everything. Yeah. You know, mortgage lates are some of the toughest stuff to get off the credit report too. And obviously you hate seeing that when you're trying to write a new mortgage for somebody. There's some mortgage lates, but you know, typically something like that is like, you got to talk to your mortgage company. So
put your white out over that?
Of course. Mortgage fraud happens every day.
2007. Never mind. We won't talk about this.
Hey, that's some sensitive stuff right there. I'm telling you, that's some sensitive stuff.
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
So let's look at the website of where you're at here. So here you go. We have eCredit Advisors. If you guys want to get a hold of Brandon here, Brandon's very knowledgeable. Obviously, we're seeing and hearing a lot of facts. He's spitting facts here today at us.
Go back.
Yes, he is.
Oh, he's spitting.
The one thing that
I'm learning all kinds of stuff.
One of the important things that Brandon is trying to say is, so when you get your credit repaired, that's what you look like afterwards.
You're happy. Yeah.
You're happy family.
You
That's
look
the
like
after
you look like
photo.
a model.
Yeah.
You're happy.
We didn't want to put the before photo. People would be
before.
offended. Yeah.
How you started, how you're gonna end up now.
I was going.
Here's you now.
Everybody's getting an
Right?
811, right?
Yeah, right.
Brandon, everybody gets an 811. Is that right?
I guess more for demonstration purposes. That one, yeah.
815 for you. 820 for you. You get an 810.
So let's go down this. Okay, so if somebody want to get a hold of you, they can call this 800 number, or
Yes.
how does that work?
Yeah, for sure. So go into the site, the 1-800 number there, you just call that and you'll be able to reach one of us, but you can keep scrolling down there. You can submit a consultation request if you don't want to call us. If you're shy, that's okay.
And you guys work across the entire country.
Yeah, across the entire country. Only in the United States, no other countries.
Wait a second.
Across the
No
US.
other countries matter.
You guys aren't Lexington law, right?
No.
Okay, good.
No,
I just wanted
we're
to make
much
sure.
better. Yeah, much
Lexington
better.
law. What a joke.
You're right. So I think this is a good starting point. We got a couple of people here that are looking to, Harry Gill wants to get your information right here. Harry, if you, we'll give, if we can maybe get your information off the show, or maybe we can somehow get a hold of you, but you can call this number. This is an 800 number that you can get a
What's
hold
the
of.
website?
Do you have a direct number to you?
I do, and I can give you my email address too. I don't know if you could pop that in there, and then
Yeah,
they can shoot me
let's
over email.
pop your email.
Pop it in.
What's your email address?
So B
Uh-huh.
A-R
Okay.
C-H
Uh-huh.
A-M
Okay.
B-A
Uh-huh.
U-L-T. I know it's long. At
ULT. Uh-huh.
at ecreditadvisor.com.
eCredit. I might have a typo on this one.
ADVISOR.
Shop.
I don't have my glasses
Dude,
on,
say
so I
that,
can't
say that
it,
10 times fast. If you guys want to get a hold of Mr. Brandon here, this guy right here, we just put his email out there.
You pop my number in there too.
Okay, what's your number, buddy?
It's 512.
Uh-huh. 512, okay.
Yeah, we used to have a call center in Texas.
Okay.
So 512-900-4910.
Okay. And I want to get some feedback, man. I want to see how many people really, because look, you
course.
sound legit.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I've had a lot
Dude,
of people.
I'm telling you, he is legit.
He's legit.
I mean, just from listening to him talk, he knows what he's talking about.
And this is not like we're not like boosting you up here. Like we're really like saying, hey, you know what? We've been in the industry. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, there's been people that were on the fence, right? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they've collected people's money, thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And then guess where they're at? They're in Mexico. We can't find them, right? And they're partying. And I'm telling you,
They're in that great big desert in a hole like everyone else.
I'm telling you, man.
That's how we make them learn a lesson around here.
So
they're in
to
Mexico.
your point,
86
important to note here, we have 100% money back guarantee too. The reason why we do that is because we're not going to take on a file that we don't think
Yeah.
has an impact. And if we do, and we don't have an impact, you're getting your money back.
Yeah.
So
Then that's on you.
Yeah.
Right? Yep.
100%.
Cool.
excellent. Anything else?
I did mention earlier, I do want to highlight this. There is a difference between debt consolidation and credit repair. I think it's important to highlight the two. I don't know if you've had people come to you that had debt consolidation or they were in debt consolidation.
What
You
is
pull
the
their
difference?
credit
Explain that to us.
and their credit's just scorched. So credit repair is when we're looking at your file, we're leveraging the different consumer protection laws on your behalf to challenge accounts and legitimately try to get them removed from your credit report. Totally above board, totally legal, no problem with that at all. Our goal is to get negative accounts removed from your credit report. That's what credit repair is. Debt consolidation is a company that's going to settle your debts for you over a long period of time. And it's not uncommon for people to be in a debt con program
Yeah.
for 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
And then they have it set up so
Wow.
that the payments pay off the company first,
Right.
and then you actually go towards
And so what happens is
your debts later.
yeah. And so what happens is you enter a contract with a debt consolidation company and they say you pay us $500 a month.
Yep.
It's going to be more because you're settling your debts to them. What they'll do is they'll go to your creditors and they basically are acting on your behalf.
They basically do what you could do yourself.
But they throw them in default. And so they intentionally default on your debts so they can get leverage on the creditors. Then go to the creditors and say,
Jesus,
if
really?
you want money, we'll negotiate now 50 cents
So
on the
they
dollar.
dig your
whatever it
hole
is."
deeper.
Oh, yes.
As in hopes that
Exactly.
So how do
They'll give
you
them
how do
more
you prevent
leverage.
that? Like
That's
if you're
crazy,
somebody out there that
Crazy.
could be in a position like that,
Yeah.
and you're like, you know what, they don't watch this show or they haven't seen information,
Yeah.
out there. How do you prevent that? Like how do you know the difference? Like
See, this is the problem. You
you
don't.
need to get
If you don't, yeah, you need
I mean,
education.
you
right?
can't be responsible for everyone's
Yeah.
mind.
well, if somebody's watching though,
Right.
what are some of the key things that they can look for or
Yeah.
or notice if they did, like let's say if they're in there now and they're like, well,
Yeah.
maybe I should jump out of this now from what I'm hearing. Is that something you would
So,
recommend?
best case scenario, you're not in it yet and you're just considering it. If that's the case, then call me, shoot me an email. Let's do a consultation so I can advise you correctly.
yeah,
on
I
it.
would say if you even
If-
have a question, you should call them.
Yeah. If you're in debt consolidation now, what's going to happen? And let's say you're 2 years into a 5-year program, you need to finish that program because what's happened is it scorches your credit and your credit is not
The
going to be
damage is already
approved
done.
until you're done that program. And so basically you're looking at kind of once you're done a debt con program, you finish, all your debts are paid. So you're relieved that way, but your credit's at like a 500 or 450 credit scored. So now you need to work on improving.
Thanks for consolidating it.
Yeah. Right.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. That's
Crazy.
that's their trick, huh?
Yeah, it's mind blowing.
And
right? But it's not common
legal,
knowledge.
dude.
That's not common knowledge. The crazy thing is people don't know that, right? And so
Yeah,
then these
no,
companies are very
people
good at
don't.
marketing, right? And so you don't know what you don't know, and yeah.
Guys, his name's Brandon. I can't even say his last name. Sorry, but
Archambault.
say that 10 times fast, right?
Archambault.
How do you say
Brandon
it?
Archambault.
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 Yeah, yeah.
What
E-credit
nationality is
advisors.
that?
What's that?
What nationality is that?
That's French. I'm Canadian, but that's
Okay.
French.
Oh, French. Okay.
yeah.
His last name's French.
Yeah, that's why I brought him on.
And his last name's French and he's Irish. You figure that out.
Yeah,
I
right?
said, you do French? I'm French. Let's do it.
That was like in Full Metal Jacket. He's like, and then the guy Dallas here was from Denver.
Yeah.
Remember in Full Metal Jacket? He's
Yeah.
going through the names, and like everybody had a city name, but they're from. Anyways,
All right. Listen, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to still have you on because we still
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit, and we're going to end the show here in a few minutes, but we want to talk about the housing market. We always do. Brandon, what do you know about the housing market right now? What do you feel about it? Because I know you live in Las Vegas. Have you seen some of the changes? I'm sure you have. How long you been in Vegas, you said?
So I've been here for 5 years, and I actually just bought a house in June. And yeah, obviously the prices are skyrocketed right now. I think that's probably more for your guys' perspective to say where the housing market's going. I don't think it's going to change dramatically anytime soon in Vegas. I'm talking specifically, not across
you're
the
right.
country.
It's not going to.
Yeah. And so I for myself in this market, I felt like it was time for me to get in because I want to participate.
And
here,
that's my point of what I'm trying to say about buyers is like if you can afford to buy a house, you're better off buying than you are renting.
Yeah.
And are we going to lead more into more of a normalized market? Yes, but it's definitely not going to be a crash. And I mean,
it's different than 2007, 2008, right? The total circumstances are
completely
way
different because you understand what's behind it and how it's different.
Yeah.
With the loans.
Yeah.
I mean, you know exactly what happened then and how it's different now. I mean, I always say to people when they, what if I'm like, have you tried getting a loan lately? They want a blood sample in your firstborn. I mean, literally to get a loan now.
Absolutely.
Like back in 2007. Oh, I make $350,000 a year. Trust me. Sounds good. Sign here.
Yeah.
Remember Nina loans? No income, no assets?
Yeah.
I'm a teacher and I make $350,000 a year. I want that $500,000 house and I want 2 duplexes that are $350 a piece. Cool. Sign here.
So I have a question. I have a
know.
question for you, being that what your job is, you're a realtor, and so since the housing market's gone kind of crazy here in the past little while, what's the craziest scenario that you've seen with regards to somebody trying to get a house that there's competition on? Did they write letters and stuff like that? Because I've heard that people are writing letters.
Yeah,
trying to hit their
personal
emotions.
letters.
What's going on there?
So I primarily work as a buyer's agent. So very few people write letters.
Yeah.
It's not as common as you think, but some do.
Yeah.
And I've never seen it make a difference.
That's what I've heard too. Yeah.
My sister wrote a letter and she got the house.
Hey, it's funny.
There
It's
you go.
the same thing
Cool.
I say that sellers love open houses when you open house because they're paying you and it sees. But the odds of a realtor hosting an open house and selling it through an open house are about 1 or 2%. And the minute I say that to somebody, they say, "Hey, my brother bought a house through an open house." I say, "Well, there you go." Same thing. Like the minute I say something, but
Brett, are you up late at night writing letters, man?
yeah,
rolling them up. You're like writing, like crumble it up. This isn't the one.
especially in a market like this, everybody's hearing, everybody knows it's a seller's market. So sellers go from greed to greedier.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. I'm not saying it can't. Sometimes it might. It just I've never seen it, and I don't really see letters being written too much. It really just comes down to the highest best. And I mean, I've seen anything for, what was it? It was a $610,000 property, and the highest winning bid on it was $720 cash. Wow, 110 over.
Yeah, but that's a rare situation. That's not like
that. He asked.
Yeah.
What's the most
I was
extreme?
curious.
So
that's pretty extreme. But I mean, I don't want
that's
people
why
to
I
think
gave
like
that
that's
scenario. The normal scenario of what was happening based on the price point, I would say between 500,000 and 700,000. Things were going anywhere between 15 to 40. And then obviously 800,000, 900. A million's a little different. That's kind of a whole different animal itself. Yeah. So you get 700,000 or 800,000, you start to see 50 over, 75 over, but it's kind of more relative because it's a $750,000 house.
Yeah, totally.
But that's kind of calming down now.
Yeah.
So the house that's still the awesome house of the neighborhood, big yard, nice house, updated pool, all that stuff, will still sell right away and might get, 3 or 4 offers, but it might go $5,000 over. It might go $10,000 over. It's not going $50,000 over or $100,000 over.
Well,
you're not getting 15, 20 offers.
Here's what I can tell you. I just researched on and made an offer for somebody on a house that had a pool. And they bought this house $100,000 less than what they were selling the house for. You can get all this data. And people are making a lot of money. Why is that desirable? Because of pool.
Yeah.
And it was in Henderson. It wasn't even a new
Let
house.
me give you an example. I have a buyer right now that's qualified up to $375,000. And we've wrote on 4 properties now that are around the $360,000 to $370,000 price point. And they wrote them 5 over each property. And they all had multiple offers, and they all sold for probably 15 over, 10 to 15 over. So if you're talking about something that's below 450 and has a pool and is a good neighbor, I mean, those things are going to
sell like
the
crazy.
demand on those you're still going to get multiple offers. You're still going to sell over list price.
Right.
Those are cookies. That's what those are.
Yeah, but
yeah.
there's a big difference between those and ones without the pool.
Well, did you have to go?
For
I don't know if
multiple
you
offers.
want to put this out there, but did you have to go above price on this house?
So I bought new construction.
Okay.
Our scenario. And
So he did in the lot premium.
we actually
100,000 or 50,000?
no. So we actually lucked out on ours, and this.
I'm just kidding.
No, you're good. So we actually lucked out on this because we had another guy. There's another buyer that was going to buy the property that we got. Selected all the design stuff and everything.
Oh, nice. So he snatched in last second.
Yeah. So this guy decided to upgrade and go to another
Who was
more
the builder?
expensive one. TriPoint.
Okay.
Yeah,
There you go.
Super impressed
Oh,
with
I
them
saw
too.
some
So.
of those.
Yeah.
They're nice.
What about you? Did you go overpriced on your house, or did you get it right?
I did a little bit.
Did
Not
you?
a lot. Not a
What
lot.
what is that?
10.
10 grand?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Is that a number, Brett, that people are? It's
That's
kind of
not
like the
bad
number.
at all. I mean,
No?
for especially new construction, that's pretty good.
It wasn't a
Oh,
lot.
no, new construction.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
good.
Yeah, it's good.
Pretty good deal. So let's go over and look and see some of the things that Esmeralda and her company has here. And
Scroll up more, Dan.
Yeah, well, we're going to see. This is Esmeralda's company, WFG Title, and National Title Company. And then, so let's look at this. You look at
That's the market action index.
Yeah.
So that little graph right there with that meter,
this meter right here.
is probably the number one indicator as far as predicting what's going to happen and what's going to happen and
Okay.
anything in the immediate near future.
Right.
So as we kind of spoke before the show started, the last month, 2 months when we came in here, that meter was, that line was on like the 80 to 90 mark.
Over here towards the end,
Yep.
the end part, right?
So even right now, it still says strong seller's market. And that's at what, a little below 70?
Yeah.
So
But it's
it was
the
at 80 or 90.
We're at a do you feel we're at a tipping point though where
I do. So right there proves it. We're about ready to cross into no longer a seller's market.
Okay.
So we're not crossing into a buyer's market because that would be on the far left. That would
Right.
be, I can't see from here.
So it's going to be
It's
almost going to be a blend. It's
But
going to be a healthy market.
It's gonna be in the
We're
middle.
now officially about ready to cross out of a seller's market.
So would you advise people right now to say, you know what, if you haven't bought at this point and we're going the other direction, should you go ahead and wait maybe a few more months? Because
Yes.
is that what you're advising people?
I would.
Really? Because you think that this is going to continue, the pattern's going to continue, huh?
Well, let's put it this way. If kind of what we said on Saturday, if the right house is there and it meets your needs, I would say buy it right now because you're not going to be getting it for a hell of a lot cheaper in the winter or, beginning of the year.
Right.
You just might have more choices.
Okay.
So if you don't see anything right now, I wouldn't settle for anything right now. Absolutely not. I would wait because more choices are probably going to come out. But if you wait 3 or 4 months, are you going to get it for a hell of a lot cheaper? Absolutely not. So if you find the right one and meet your needs right now, then snatch it up.
This seems really crazy though. $499 average median or average list price.
What's the average square foot? 236?
Yeah, that's the median list price.
It was 227 about a month ago, so it went up another little bit.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So you're seeing a tipping point, but yet you still see numbers
dude,
like
I
this.
remember selling short sales in 2012, and these things were like in the ridges, like ultra luxury. And it was like $250, and everyone being like, "Oh, $250 a square foot. That's crazy. How can
Right.
I mean, it's a Ridges. I know, but I don't care." It's like, think about that. That's our average
Yeah, it's insane.
price now. That's our average price now. That's crazy.
One of the things I want to point out.
That was ultra luxury price like 10 years ago, man.
One of the things I want to point out, though, is there is saying right here, price increase versus decrease. The
Yeah.
price increase is only 8%. So that tells you it's starting to slow. And I think
Yeah.
buyers are starting to get frustrated. They're also probably saying, you know what, I'm just going to back out altogether because
There's a bit of a buyer exhaustion. We're going into the winter. There's the slowdown season. There's a few different factors, and like I said on Saturday, the people who needed to buy and wanted to buy and were completely obsessed with moving here and getting it done with, they've bought. So there's still plenty of people who want to buy and have the money to buy, but they're in a position where they don't overpay for things, and they don't do this competitive multiple offer thing. They're more than fine than just letting it chill out a little bit and then more approaching it on their terms. So to them, it's more about approaching the market on their terms.
Right.
Not because they think they're going to get it for $100,000 cheaper a year from now, but they know it's going to settle down some, or they want to wait till it settles down, and it's going to be more on their terms, which is the way they like to do deals and buy homes.
We are seeing that in our business too.
Yeah.
People are waiting.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just want to say this too. Like, you look at the situation here with this. We're going to go back to this. Rents are going up, right? But it still is not. I've seen data that's come out that says rents are still increasing, but people are still renting, and they're willing. You know what? This is a real estate financing show. We got a lot of information on, entrepreneurs. We're not biased in the fact that you shouldn't rent. This goes and tells you right now, if you're not, if you're not ready to buy, then rent. Even if it's 6 months, just to kind of figure things out. I think a lot of people come from out of state. They don't really know what they want to do. They don't know where they want to live. Some of these.
When I first moved here, I rented for a couple of years till I figure out what the hell this town was about and
and
where
then you
things
get familiar
were.
with the neighborhoods.
Yeah,
'cause you don't
absolutely.
know where.
And the only reason I was able to learn the neighborhoods quick was because I sold real estate. So.
Yeah, and then you drive out and somebody's sitting out in the front with a gun. Then you know that's probably not the neighborhood.
I'm like, I know down when I turned in here, it looked good. And then I turned the corner here. Oh, we're playing that good block, bad block kind of scenario. I gotcha.
In a rocking chair.
Good block, bad block. Oh, okay.
When somebody's sitting in a rocking chair with a gun on the side.
I'm not mentioning
I don't know if I
anything.
want to. I don't know if that's a good place to raise a family. Yeah. So, anything else, Brett?
No, man, just that's kind of the market right now. It's cooling a little bit, and we'll just kind of see what happens. But it's more by the day becoming less of a seller's market and more of a normal market.
Yes, I agree. And
By the day.
inventory is increasing, but it's increasing ever so slightly.
Yeah,
right?
but really, do we want anything to change either way drastically? That's when people freak the F out, is when things go drastically either way. So it's a nice steady decline down or a nice steady incline up. Usually,
I've seen too. I want to bring this up where I think a lot of people, because it's a seller's market, they're in Mars. They think they're going to get,
I've had plenty of sellers. Yeah,
60,000 above what they think it's going to be. And here's the thing about that.
Or they won't bend or break on anything.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this thing, one little thing needs repaired. It's like $50. I'm not doing it. It's like, man,
absolutely.
you're
and
pretty arrogant, dude.
It's weird because they take their house off the market and then they relist it.
Dude,
right? And they do
I've
this
seen, I know.
all the time. Right? And so I'm not saying that that's bad to do that. I'm just saying, I think it comes down to the realtor and kind of setting that expectation. Like, okay, we want
100% does.
We want to make money, right? Everybody wants to make money, but we also don't want to steal the bag, right? So,
You don't want to gouge people.
yeah, and even if you tried, you probably are not going to get away with it because there's still things like if you get somebody that's offering for a loan, you got an appraisal.
Yeah.
Is somebody really willing to go? 60,
Well,
70,
it's conversations and educating your seller or buyer from the get-go. That's really what it comes. Here's the market. Here's what we need to do. Here's what might happen. And then I'm sure you're going to have a million more questions. And the best I can say is we'll approach that scenario if it happens. But you're working with someone who's very well versed in what they do. So,
all right, that's it. We're going to end the
That's it,
show,
my man.
You guys have anything else to say? Esmeralda.
Quiet over there.
I know. I was just listening.
All this masculinity talking. She's
Well,
just
Sorry.
I was listening because it was really interesting on the credit. I do have another question for you.
Yeah.
For credit.
shut that down.
Oh, hold on.
Man, he's trying to end you. You're out there giving your acceptance speech, and he's like,
Esmeralda comes at the very end and says, I have something to say.
I didn't want to overshadow anybody. I have a question. So, what is the fastest turn, or I would say turn time that you fix someone's credit to actually buy a home?
Yeah, so I can tell you the average turn time at our program is 112 days. But typically, if somebody's going to enroll in our program, the quickest we're going to see a result in is as little as 45 days, 30, 45 days, because the bureaus have that much time to be able to do something.
Crazy.
That's not the average, though, right?
Yeah.
112 days is the average time somebody's going through our program.
okay.
So you couldn't push it. Let's say that somebody needed to close sooner. Would you be able to bypass protocols or no?
Well, again, going to be based on their file, but if there's a quick route to get them there, then we're always going to be looking for the quick
Yeah.
route. But this does happen. So somebody goes to our program, they're getting right to the end, sort of the closing line or close to the closing date. There's still some stuff to clean up on the credit. Then, we'll put everything that we can into that to figure out every scenario possible to get them there. And a lot of it's going to come down to, hey, you got to pay this, rapid rescore this, make sure you get this letter from this to cover yourself, right? And so if we have to do that at the end, we'll do that at the end. But hopefully we can avoid that.
Okay, I was just
Yeah.
curious.
All right, guys, we're streaming live every Tuesday and Saturday. If you guys not hit the like button, please do. Also subscribe to the channel. And we're also putting out a lot of content on TikTok, Instagram. Look at those things. We're really starting to push this content out. Also look at some of the past videos. We got a lot of good information. We want to earn your business, okay? That's what we're here for. We want to
Yes.
earn your business, do it the right way. Everybody's different. And also, if you guys want to visit my website, lvhomeprofessionals.com. And guys, call Brandon.
Heck yeah.
Brandon's a guy that's got a lot of knowledge in this. Brandon, I want to thank you for coming on.
Of course.
And we'll have Brandon on again. Guys,
Yeah,
if you
thanks,
have-
Brandon. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man.
Of course.
Learned a lot,
I'm
dude. Very
looking forward
much.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys have any comments or any questions, call Brandon. We got a phone number right here. If you guys have any comments or questions on the show, we'll answer them. And you guys, we'll see you on Saturday. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you then. Thank you for watching an episode of the French Workbench Podcast. If you want to tune into past episodes, please subscribe to my channel now. Also, if you want to look at our audio-only options, we do have iTunes and SoundCloud.